It's now time for our first panel of the day. This panel will discuss the impact of the global refugee crisis on displaced LGBTQIA+ people, and will be led by Kimahli Powell, Executive Director of Rainbow Railroad. Please join me in welcoming Kimahli and our panellists.
Good morning. Sorry, good morning. All right. Hi, panelists. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. You ready to talk about refugees and displaced people?
Always.
Yeah. Thank you all for coming. My name is Kimahli Powell. I use he, him pronouns, and I am the CEO of Rainbow Railroad. We're an international-based organization with headquarters in Toronto and New York, and we focus on helping LGBTQI+ people find pathways to safety. I'll talk a little bit about our organization and the context while we're here in a second, but first, let me introduce you to my esteemed colleagues. First, in the middle, we have Brian Okollan with Upper Lift Minorities. With over 17 years of active frontline grassroots activism in northern Kenya, Brian is a second-time Human Rights Award winner and social entrepreneur whose focus is on supporting, creating, enabling environment for grassroots mobilization and uplifting rural marginalized communities to self-empowerment, including LGBTQI+ asylum seekers and refugees at one of the largest refugee camps in Kenya. He is a founder of a leading human rights organization in the region that has won both local and international awards in its innovative approaches to tackling marginalization and homophobia. Please give a welcome to Brian. Immediately to my right is Tina Dixson, the co-founder of the Forcibly Displaced People Network. Tina is a queer feminist academic working on issues of violence against women and queer refugee women. Tina is a Ukrainian who sought asylum in Australia with her partner. Tina was involved with her partner in the establishment of the Forcibly Displaced People Network, the first Australian registered LGBTQI+ refugee-led organization. Tina now works, Tina now works in social policy focusing on LGBTQI+ communities. Welcome, Tina.
Thank you.
To my far right is Henry Ko. Henry Ko is the current executive director of ILGA Asia. Prior to joining ILGA Asia, Henry served as a human rights specialist with regional human rights organizations and the UN. They have extensive experience engaging in United Nations advocacy to advance SOGIESC rights, access to healthcare for vulnerable groups, freedoms of expression, assembly, and association. Henry holds a Master of Law in International Human Rights Law, a Bachelor of Law from University of London, and a postgraduate diploma in International Arbitration. Welcome, Henry.
Thank you.
And virtually, we have Danilo Manzano. Danilo is the Executive Director of Dialogo Diverso, which works in the promotion, guarantee, and defense of human rights with emphasis on LGBTI+ people, gender, and democracy. Since the creation of the protection program Mi Casa Fiero di Casa, they have supported thousands of queer refugees and migrants from Venezuela and Ecuador. Danilo is an international lecturer on police participation and diversity. He's a TEDx speaker and a worldwide representative of queer people for the General Assembly of Allies of Habitat 3 United Nations. Welcome, Danilo.
Hi, everyone.
Danilo, I can't see you. I'm looking at an audience.
Hey, hello, everyone.
Hey, how you doing, bud? Good to see you. Danilo, we'll talk about why you can't be here in person while we're talking about, forced displacement, but we'll get to that later. First, some context. 117 million. That is what the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, or UNHCR, predicts will be the number of forcibly displaced people by the end of this year. I used to say often, as that number was 100 just a year ago, or 80 million, that it was the largest number since the Second World War, but now it's the largest number on record. And the intersection between that number and a number we're more familiar with, which is nearly 70 countries that criminalize same-sex intimacy, means that LGBTQI plus queer people are displaced all around the world. And because they are displaced and because they don't have access to the refugee asylum system, even though it's guaranteed under the 1951 Convention, queer people find themselves in situations where they're displaced in their countries, and when they get access to protection via UNHCR or other means, they can't access it. So Rainbow Railroad's mission is to try to make the migration process safer and more equitable for queer people. And we are humbled that we've been able to do a small part and help over 2,000 people find safety through international borders. 2,000 people is a small fraction if you think about 117 million displaced people. And we need more tools to deal with the refugee crisis. And I'll be super clear if you haven't heard me say it before, but I'll say it again. The refugee crisis is not a crisis of refugees, it's a crisis of government's failure to act. Did you hear that in the back? I hope government's heard it too. After this, after this session, there's a group of special envoys on here from governments, and so you remind them too. So with that, let's have a conversation. First, Tina, can you, do you want to show off your outfit? Because it's pretty fabulous.
Thank you.
Yeah.
No.
No?
No, thank you.
All right. Later. Well, at least you want to explain where it's from.
Sure, this is the Ukrainian dress that talks about the ancestral connection to the land, but also the power of women in the culture.
And briefly, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing good. It's really fantastic to have the dedicated space to talk about displacement issues as the mainstream, because very often these issues within both the queer and refugee spaces gets to be pushed into one of the sessions.
The back room of the back room of the back room.
Of the back room. Yeah. And a lot of people unfortunately think that is really irrelevant to them if they do not specifically work with LGBTIQ refugees. Well, our message is always that no matter where you work, social policy, feminism, human rights, you cannot disregard the issues of LGBTIQ displacement and migration.
Thank you. Danilo, my friend, how are you doing?
Oh, my friend, I'm so excited here in Quito, Ecuador, in South America. Here it's 6 p.m. and I'm very jealous, because I saw many pictures, a lot of people having so much fun, trying to exchange different cultures in Sydney right now. So I'm very, very proud of every single representation of the LGBTQ plus community in Sydney at this moment.
We long for welcome. We long for the day that queer people can organize in a conference and not get denied visas by governments, don't we? Brian, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Yeah.
Succinct.
Yes, I'm doing good, and I'm very happy to be here. This is a very important moment, and a quiet reflection and a reminder that even in the 21st century, we are still speaking about immigrants as a result of being who you are. It's so unfortunate, but it's very important that we're here. Yeah.
Henry, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. Glad to be here and to also represent the voice of Asia among all of us here.
So Brian, I want to come back to you. Many people in this room have probably heard of the situation affecting LGBTQI plus migrants looking to resettle in Kenya, and particularly the Kakuma refugee camp. Can you describe the situation currently affecting queer refugees in the country?
That's a good question. In most cases, when all of us hear about refugees, what comes to our mind are the refugee camps. But less often have we ever asked ourselves, what is it that happens to these people once they cross the border until the day they get into the refugee camp? This background is very important for us to really understand and appreciate what many of our young people in the region, especially in East Africa, go through before they get into the refugee camp, before even you start speaking about what it means to seek asylum in a